The day I got promoted to regional sales director was supposed to be the best day of my life. 3 years of grinding, rebuilding, and proving myself had finally paid off. I stood in my new corner office in Phoenix, Arizona, looking out at the city skyline, feeling like I had climbed out of the deepest hole a man could fall into. I had lost everything when Kendra walked out. But now everything was different. Or so I thought. Because right there on my phone, a text from an unknown number appeared. Just one line. And it made my blood run cold. I never expected Kendra had been watching me this whole time. What she did next showed me what true madness looks like. Before I get into this story, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from right now. If you have ever had an ex do something crazy after seeing you move on, hit that like button, so I know I am not alone in this. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Now let me take you back to where it all started. I met Kendra at a networking event in downtown Phoenix when I was 26 years old. She was standing near the bar holding a glass of white wine, scanning the room like she was looking for someone specific. When her eyes landed on me, she smiled. Not a warm smile, but something sharper, something that made me feel like I had been chosen. Kendra had dark brown hair that fell just past her shoulders and these blue-gray eyes that always seemed to be calculating something behind them. Her smile was magnetic, the kind that drew you in, but looking back now, it never quite reached her eyes. She worked as a marketing coordinator for a tech startup, and she talked about her career with the kind of ambition that I found attractive at the time. I was just a sales associate back then, fresh in the industry, trying to prove that I belonged. Kendra told me she liked men with potential. She said she could see it in me, that hunger to become something more. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. We started dating, and within a year she had moved into my apartment. The first signs of trouble were subtle. Kendra would make small comments about my job, about how much money I made, about where I should be by now. She would compare me to her friends and their boyfriends. One of them just bought a house, she would say. Another one got promoted twice in 2 years. Why are you still in the same position? At first I thought she was pushing me to be better. But the comments never stopped. Every time I came home excited about a small win at work, Kendra found a way to shrink it. That is great, but when are you going to close a really big deal? I started doubting myself. I started believing that maybe I was not good enough for her. Kendra took over our finances. She said she was better with money, and I let her because I trusted her. I stopped hanging out with my friends because she did not like them. They are holding you back, she would say. You need to surround yourself with people who are going somewhere. My family lived back in Texas, and I rarely visited because Kendra always had a reason for me to stay. A work event she wanted to attend. A trip she had planned. Something that could not wait. 2 years into our relationship, I came home early one evening. A client meeting had been canceled at the last minute, and I figured I would surprise Kendra with dinner. But when I pulled into the parking lot, I saw an unfamiliar car in my spot. The front door was unlocked when I got upstairs. I walked into my own apartment and found Kendra sitting on the couch with a man I had never seen before. They were not doing anything explicit, but the way they jumped apart when I walked in told me everything I needed to know. The guilt on her face lasted about 2 seconds before it hardened into something else. Something cold. She introduced him as Derek, a senior manager she had met through work. She said it like I should already know who he was, like I was the one interrupting something that had been going on for a while. I could not breathe. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest and forgotten to pull their fist back out. Kendra did not apologize, not once. She looked at me and said she had waited long enough for me to become something. She said she deserved more than I could give her. That night she packed her bags and left with Derek. I stood in the middle of my empty living room, surrounded by furniture we had picked out together, and realized I had nothing left. She had used most of our savings on things she wanted. Clothes, trips, a new laptop. I was 28 years old, alone, and nearly broke. The 6 months after Kendra left were the darkest period of my life. I could not sleep. I would lie in bed at night staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our relationship in my head. I kept asking myself what I did wrong, what I could have done differently, why I was not enough. My performance at work tanked. I missed sales targets. I showed up late. My manager pulled me aside and told me I was on thin ice. I did not care. Nothing seemed to matter anymore. I started drinking more than I should have. Not at bars, but alone in my apartment, sitting on that same couch where I found her with Derek. I barely ate. The place was a mess. Dishes piled up in the sink, clothes scattered on the floor. I had become someone I did not recognize. My mom called me from Texas one night. The moment she heard my voice, she started crying. She knew something was wrong. I tried to tell her I was fine, but my voice cracked and I could not keep up the lie. She begged me to come home, but I was too ashamed, too embarrassed to admit that I had let a woman destroy me like this. One night I sat in my car in the parking lot of a bar I used to go to with friends. I did not go inside. I just sat there, engine off, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. The man looking back at me had dark circles under his eyes, a beard he had not trimmed in weeks, and this hollow look that scared me. I did not know who I was anymore. The turning point came from someone I least expected. Marcus was a colleague at work, one of the few people who still checked in on me even when I pushed everyone away. One Saturday morning he showed up at my apartment unannounced. He took one look at the mess I was living in and told me to put on my running shoes. I told him to leave. He refused. We drove to a trail at the edge of the city, and he made me run. I was out of shape, gasping for air after half a mile, but he did not let me stop. When we finally took a break, he looked at me and said something I will never forget. She did not leave because you were not good enough. She left because she did not have the ability to see your worth. That is her failure, not yours. Those words cracked something open inside me. I realized I had been measuring my value through Kendra's eyes for so long that I forgot I had my own. That day I made a decision. I was going to rebuild myself. Not to prove anything to Kendra, not to win her back, but because I deserved a better life than the one I was living. I started going to the gym every morning before work. At first it was brutal. My body ached, and my mind kept telling me to quit. But I showed up anyway, day after day. I started reading books on personal development, on psychology, on sales techniques. I reconnected with old friends I had abandoned. I called my parents every Sunday. I set a clear goal for myself. Within 3 years I would be in a management position. I started keeping a journal. Every night I wrote down 3 things I was grateful for and 3 things I wanted to accomplish. It sounds simple, but it changed the way I thought about my life. I stopped focusing on what I had lost and started focusing on what I could build. The first year I became the top sales associate in the Southwest region. I closed deals I never thought I could close. My confidence grew. The second year I got promoted to team lead. I was responsible for a team of 5 people, and I discovered I was good at helping others succeed. I moved out of that apartment filled with bad memories and into a nicer place in Scottsdale. I bought a new car, something I had always wanted, but Kendra had said was impractical. I also started dating again. A mutual friend introduced me to a woman named Meredith. She was a nurse at a local hospital, and from the moment I met her, I knew she was different. Meredith was calm, genuine, and kind. She never compared me to anyone. She never made me feel like I needed to be more than I was. When I told her about a success at work, she celebrated with me. When I struggled, she supported me without judgment. By the 3rd year, I had been promoted to regional sales director. I remember standing in my new office, looking out at the Phoenix skyline, thinking about how far I had come. 3 years earlier, I was a broken man sitting in a dark apartment wondering if life was worth living. Now I had a career. I was proud of a woman who loved me for who I was and a sense of peace I never knew was possible. That was the day I got the text message. From an unknown number. Just a few words that shattered the calm I had worked so hard to build. The message was simple. Congratulations on the new position. I always knew you had potential. No name, no signature. but I knew immediately who it was from. The phrasing was too familiar. "I always knew you had potential." Those were the exact words Kendra had used when we first met. My stomach turned. I deleted the message and tried to forget about it. But deep down, I knew that was not going to be the end of it. 2 weeks later, my company threw a celebration party for everyone who had received promotions that quarter. It was held at a nice venue downtown, and I brought Meredith as my date. She looked beautiful that night, and I remember feeling proud to have her by my side. Proud of the life we were building together. Halfway through the evening, I was talking to a group of colleagues when something caught my eye across the room. A flash of red, a familiar posture. I turned and my heart nearly stopped. Kendra was standing near the bar wearing a tight red dress, talking to my company's CEO like they were old friends. She had a glass of champagne in her hand, and that same calculated smile I remembered from years ago. I could not understand how she had gotten in. This was a private company event. Later, I found out she had contacted our public relations department claiming to be a journalist who wanted to write a feature about our company's growth. She had lied her way into my celebration. She spotted me watching her and made her way over. Meredith tensed beside me. She could sense something was wrong even before Kendra reached us. "It has been so long," Kendra said, looking at me like we were old friends reuniting. "You look good. Really good." She turned to Meredith and gave her a slow once-over, the kind that was meant to make someone feel small. "And who is this?" I introduced Meredith as my girlfriend. Kendra smiled, but there was something poisonous behind it. She stayed for another 20 minutes making small talk, asking about my new role, complimenting my success. Then she disappeared into the crowd. But the damage was done. The evening was ruined. Meredith was quiet on the drive home, and I spent the whole night trying to convince her that Kendra meant nothing to me anymore. That was just the beginning. Over the following weeks, Kendra launched what I can only describe as a systematic campaign to insert herself back into my life. She started liking and commenting on every single post I made on LinkedIn. Not normal comments, but long, gushing messages about how talented I was, how she always believed in me, how proud she was of everything I had accomplished. My colleagues started asking questions. Then came the emails. She sent messages to my work address, requesting interviews for articles that did not exist. She wanted to meet for coffee. She wanted to catch up. She made it sound professional, but I knew better. She started showing up at the coffee shop I went to every morning before work. The first time she acted surprised to see me. "What a coincidence," she said. The second time she dropped the act and just sat down at my table without being invited. I left without finishing my drink. Then the flowers arrived at my office. A huge bouquet with a card that read, "Remembering the days when we used to dream about the future together." My assistant asked if I had a secret admirer. I wanted to throw the flowers in the trash, but I did not want to cause a scene. Meredith was patient, but I could see the strain this was putting on her. She asked me once late at night if I still had feelings for Kendra. The question broke my heart. I held her and promised her that Kendra was my past, that she was my future. But even as I said the words, I felt the weight of Kendra's shadow hanging over us. Then Kendra crossed a line I never expected. She found my mother's phone number somehow. I still do not know how. She called my mom in Texas crying, spinning a story about how we were still in love, but I had been manipulated by another woman. She told my mother that Meredith had come between us, that I was making a mistake. My mom called me confused and worried, asking what was going on. But Kendra was not done. She created a fake social media account and started sending messages to Meredith. The messages claimed that I had been seeing Kendra behind her back, that we had met in secret multiple times, that I was lying to her. Meredith showed me the messages, her hands shaking. She believed me when I told her it was all lies, but I could see the hurt in her eyes, the doubt that Kendra had planted. The worst night came about 2 months after that first text message. I was at home with Meredith when my phone buzzed. It was the security desk at my building. There was a woman in the lobby causing a disturbance. She was claiming to be my fiancé and accusing me of cheating on her. I went downstairs and found Kendra standing in the middle of the lobby, clearly intoxicated, mascara running down her face. She was yelling at the security guard, demanding to be led upstairs. A dozen of my neighbors were watching from the elevator bank, some of them recording on their phones. She saw me and started screaming. "How could you do this to me? We were supposed to be together. You ruined everything." I had to stand there in front of everyone and calmly explain to the security guard that this woman was not my fiancée, that she was an ex-girlfriend who had been harassing me for weeks. Kendra was escorted out by building security, still yelling, still crying. But the humiliation lingered. I knew that by morning the whole building would be talking about the scene she had caused. That night, I made a decision. I was done being passive. I was done hoping Kendra would simply go away. I needed to take control of the situation before she destroyed everything I had rebuilt. I spent the next week collecting evidence. Every text message she had sent, every email, every LinkedIn comment. I got copies of the security footage from my building showing her outburst in the lobby. I documented the dates and times she had shown up at the coffee shop. I printed out the messages she had sent to Meredith from the fake account. I consulted with a lawyer about obtaining a restraining order. She told me I had more than enough evidence to make a case. But before I filed the paperwork, I wanted to try one more thing. I wanted to face Kendra directly and give her one last chance to walk away. I arranged to meet her at a coffee shop in a busy shopping center. Somewhere public, somewhere safe. I asked Marcus to come with me as a witness. He sat at a nearby table pretending to work on his laptop, but ready to step in if things got out of hand. Kendra showed up looking like she expected a reconciliation. She had done her hair, put on makeup, worn a dress I remembered from our time together. When she saw my expression, her smile faltered. I laid everything out for her. I told her that I had documented all of her harassment. I told her that I had spoken with a lawyer. I told her that if she did not stop immediately, I would file for a restraining order and press charges if necessary. She tried to interrupt, to explain, to justify, but I kept going. Then I asked her the question that had been burning in my mind for weeks. Why are you doing this? It has been 3 years. You left me. You chose someone else. Why now? Kendra's composure cracked. For the first time since I had known her, I saw real vulnerability in her eyes. She told me that Derek had left her after about a year. He had found someone else, just like she had found someone else when she was with me. She had spent the last 2 years watching me from afar, seeing me succeed, seeing me thrive, seeing me build a life with someone new. And she could not stand it. I realized I made a mistake. She said, her voice breaking. I should never have left you. We were supposed to build that life together. Not you and her. Us. I looked at her for a long moment. Part of me felt pity. She was clearly hurting, clearly lost. But a larger part of me felt clarity. I understood something in that moment that I had not understood before. I spoke slowly, making sure she heard every word. My happiness is not a punishment for you, Kendra. It is simply my life. A life you chose to leave. You do not get to come back and destroy what I have built just because you regret your choices. She started to cry. Real tears this time, not the theatrical kind she had used on my mother. But I did not waver. I hope you find peace, I told her. I really do. But you need to find it away from me. This is your last warning. I stood up and walked out. Marcus followed. Kendra stayed at the table alone. After that conversation, the harassment stopped. Whether it was because my words finally reached her, or because she feared the legal consequences, I do not know. But I filed for the restraining order anyway. The court approved it. Kendra was legally required to stay at least 500 feet away from me, from Meredith, from my home, and from my workplace. In the months that followed, I focused on healing. Not just from the harassment, but from the entire experience of having loved someone who was incapable of healthy love. I went to therapy for a while, something I never thought I would do. It helped me understand the patterns I had fallen into, the warning signs I had missed, the boundaries I had failed to set. Meredith stood by me through all of it. Her trust never wavered, even when Kendra had tried so hard to break it. Our relationship grew stronger. We learned how to communicate better, how to support each other through difficult times, how to build something real and lasting. I think about Kendra sometimes, not with anger or resentment, but with a strange kind of understanding. She was a wounded person who tried to fill her emptiness by controlling others. When that did not work, she tried to tear down what she could not have. It was sad, really. A waste of a life that could have been different. But I refused to let bitterness define my story. I spent too many years letting Kendra's voice live in my head, telling me I was not good enough. Now I know the truth. My worth was never determined by her opinion of me. It was always mine to define. The lesson I carry with me is this: someone who leaves you when you are at your lowest does not deserve to be there when you reach your highest. Success is not revenge, it is simply the natural result of investing in yourself. And no one has the right to come back and destroy the life you have built, just because they regret walking away from it. Sometimes I wonder if Kendra ever found peace. I hope she did. Not for her sake, but for my own. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. I let go of that poison a long time ago. If you are watching this and you have ever had someone try to tear you down after they saw you succeed, I want you to know that their behavior says everything about them and nothing about you. Your growth is not a threat. It is proof that you were always capable of more than they gave you credit for. So here is my question for you. Have you ever had an ex or someone from your past act completely unhinged when they saw you doing well without them? Drop your story in the comments. I would love to hear what you went through and how you handled it. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps more people find this video. And if you want to hear more stories like this one, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. Thank you for watching and for being part of this community. I wish you strength, peace, and the courage to keep building the life you deserve. No matter who tries to tear it down,